here. Charlie Masterbird.
Here.
Robert Kwasnicki. Kathy Proper. Here.
Put your mic on. Fire evacuation, there's two means of egress out of the council chambers. First one is to my left, your right. Go out the doors, down, take the first door on the left, down the stairs, straight out into the parking lot. The second is right in front of us, right behind you folks. Just go out the double doors, take a right down the sidewalk and out into the parking lot. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No problem.
So you can go ahead and make your motion if you want to add.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we add to item 8, make it item A, move everything else down for the election of officers under other business.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Made by Mary Ann, seconded by Andrew. So we'll add that to our agenda tonight, and we'll take care of that after
All
other
those in
business.
favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Yeah, I guess I should do that part, huh? All right. Legal notice.
The Enfield Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearings on Monday, January 29, 2018 at 7 p.m. in the Council Chambers, Town Hall, 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, concerning the following. ZBA number 217-0809, 1654 King Street, automotive location approval for an automotive repair garage. Christy Selby, applicant, JFP Realty, owner map 013, lot 0009, industrial 1 zone. You want to read the other?
Yes.
ZBA 2017-12-18, 2 Connecticut Avenue, requesting a variance to section 5.10, table 5.10, to reduce the minimum required lot area in a BL zone to 23,717 square feet, where 30,000 square feet is required. Pride Limited Partnerships, owner applicant, map 035, lot 0107, business local BL zone, dated this 18th day of January 2018. Mary Ann Turner, secretary.
A little bit of housekeeping that I should have done before that. How business will be conducted. The secretary has read the legal notices. The applicants will be asked to come forward, state their name and business, name and address for the record, present their application. Questions may or may not come from the board. The audience is then given an opportunity to speak in favor or against the application. If the audience does speak, the applicant shall have final opportunity for comment. Additional information not submitted with the application shall be presented while the public hearing is open. Once the public hearing is closed, no information will be accepted or reviewed for the board. Comments made by the public that are not relevant to the exercise of the commission's statutory or regulatory authority will not be considered by the commission for reaching its decision. Once a decision once the application has been presented, the public hearing will be closed. The applicant may have a seat in the audience and wait for the commission to reach their decision. We should reach a decision tonight on anything we hear. And then if you choose to leave and not wait for the decision, somebody from the town will notify you of what the outcome was. Definition of where a variance can be granted. A variance can be granted where such grant will not affect the overall purpose of the zoning ordinance, and where strict interpretation of the ordinance will result in a hardship. A hardship exists where the zoning ordinance uniquely affects a parcel of land differently from other properties, and where use of the property or reasonable use of the land would be impossible without the variance. Self-imposed or financial hardships cannot by law be considered as a reason for granting a variance. Would the applicant for 1654 King Street come forward, please?
Good evening. Is this working? Okay. My name is Timothy Kuhn. I'm a professional engineer with J.R. Russo and Associates, here tonight representing the applicant, Industrial Diesel and Driveline LLC. Along with me is Christy Selby from Industrial Diesel, and also in the audience is John Petronella, the property owner. We are here requesting approval for a location for an automotive repair facility. I'm going to start just by handling a little bit of housekeeping. I guess there was some question today regarding the sign posting out at the property. The sign was actually posted back in the fall for the public hearing associated with the planning and zoning application that we had. It's the same sign, whether it be for the planning and zoning or the ZBA. Therefore, it has been in place this entire time. There was a question of whether it was up today. Ms. Selby has been maintaining it over this entire period, so this evening it was suggested we provide an affidavit just indicating that she has been maintaining the sign at the location. So I'll pass that forward. The subject property is located at 1654 King Street. It's a 12.5 acre parcel, zoned industrial I-2. It is abutted to the north, which, I'm sorry, this is upside down. North being to the right of this page. It is abutted to the north by residential R33 zone, to the west by I-91, to the south by Depot Hill Road and across the road by industrial properties, and to the east by King Street, which is also Route 5, and properties across there also zoned residential. It's currently improved with about 4 buildings. There's the main brick building in the southeast corner. It's a 32,000 square foot building, a 5,000 square foot garage, an existing covered storage area with a little garage up front, another little storage building located on the west side, and then there's a small building associated with the communications tower at the north end of the parcel. There are automobile parking surrounding or throughout the site. There's a storage area in the back for one of the existing uses, as well as tractor-trailer parking on the site. And as I mentioned, a communications tower on the north side. The site is currently accessed either off of Depot Hill Road, where there are currently 3 curb cuts, 2 of which are gated. And there's 2 curb cuts on Route 5, one of which is gated. So this is kind of an open parking lot, and the rear has gated access. Currently, the site is multi-use with a variety of industrial and commercial uses, including Enfield Builders, a construction company, Rossi Electric, an electrical contractor, Federal Rent-A-Fence, a fencing contractor, Dr. Susan Devine, an optometrist, Cast Inc., if I pronounce that correctly, a machinery sales office, Capital Recovery Group, an auction company office, Integration Inc., an IT consultant, Winding Brook LLC, a trucking company, and American Tower Corp., which operates the communication towers in the back. Prior to 1997, this site was utilized by Northeast Utilities, CL&P at the time, as well as Yankee Gas. So, what is being proposed by Industrial Diesel and Driveline is to utilize this 5,000 square foot building for the purpose of automotive repair. Now, Industrial Diesel is, they focus on they're a heavy equipment repair garage which focuses on construction equipment, but they also occasionally repair over-the-road trucks. And in fact, the garage has been used in the past by Winding Brook for the repair of their fleet vehicles on the site, their tractor-trailer trucks. So the plan actually is for the applicant to move in here and set up their business and actually take over the maintenance of the Winding Brook fleet, as well as some additional over-the-road public traffic. The plan that we shows identifies the building. They would also have some employee parking to the south of the building and some parking spaces allocated to them for any vehicles for their repair. We also provided to you a floor plan. This is the existing building. It's set up, it's got 4 service bays. It's got a couple of offices, a locker room with bathrooms, a storage area, and there's also a mezzanine area also used for parts storage. Currently, there's existing floor drains. All of these are connected to an existing oil water separator, which discharges to the sanitary sewer. And as the plan shows, they're going to have a specified area for their oil and hazardous material storage indoors. There will be no oil or hazardous material storage outdoors. Okay. And one more item on that, they do plan to contract with, I believe, Safety Clean to remove and dispose of all their hazardous waste materials. Motor vehicle repair is an allowed use in the I-2 zone. The applicant has received planning and zoning approval for this proposed use and the proposed site plan. And in addition, this location has historically been used for motor vehicle repair by both Winding Brook and, prior to that, Northeast Utilities for their fleet vehicles. Thus, we feel that this is an appropriate location for an automotive repair facility, and we hope that you would approve our application this evening. We'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do you have any questions of the board?
I have a couple. Are you going to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Christy Selby. I'm the applicant and owner of Industrial Diesel and Driveline.
Just a couple of things. I went out to the property, and I have to be honest with you. I wish you had sent me that plan that had the little orange square in it, because as I drove around and around and around trying to find the exact building, it was making me a little frustrated. And I accidentally found it by accident when I just finally pulled over, opened the door, and said, "Hey, is this the space?" So your little square would have helped me a little. Couple things. On the application, it says that you have a Phase 1 or Phase 2 environmental report for the property.
Did you have an environmental report done? Or is that something?
I think that's something that John may be more familiar with as the owner.
Okay, it just says here the property has been cited for environmental contamination, and there is a Phase 1 or Phase 2 environmental report. So the reason I want to know is if there is such a report, I want to make sure that it's in the conditions and that it is given to the office.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm John Petronella, the owner. The site is currently under an environmental remediation and is registered with the DEP. This is an ongoing thing since the 1990s, before we even bought the property. And Northeast Utilities has been maintaining it. When they were bought out by Eversource, Eversource is now maintaining it, and they have an environmental company. It's called Apex Environmental, who's been monitoring the property. They come out about every quarter. There's monitoring wells and so forth. But it is a registered site with the DEP. It's been ongoing for well over 20 years, and we bought it with that understanding and agreement with Northeast Utilities at the time, and it's transferred since to Eversource.
Okay. I just want to put it in the conditions that we want to make sure that report makes the file.
Sure.
We've had this with other things that we've done.
Yeah.
A couple other quick ones. I guess this just barely comes to you. When you said there'd be no outside storage of any waste, when I walked by the building, there were two 50-gallon drums out in the front on the side. I didn't look to see how they were placarded, but if they're not supposed to be outside, please don't have them outside. Because I'm not sure what was in them, I didn't look. And then I was getting a little confused about the outside storage. It gets talked about numerous times in your documents. Since no site improvements or outside storage area are proposed, we believe this use will commence unnoticed to surrounding properties. But then I found it in another spot where the planning and zoning had put a condition in that you would not have any more than 20% outside storage, but it's inconsistent. So will there be outside storage? And if there is, or possibly going to be outside storage, per planning and zoning's 20% comment, how much is that?
The outside storage is not associated with this use. That was brought up, I believe John currently has some outside storage for Enfield Builders in the back. And as part of the planning and zoning approval process, we have gone through and actually, we've been,
Areas defined for outside storage currently are this area in here, defined in there. There's an area here currently, and as well as all the trailer parking spaces over here and over here. This area towards the north of the property around the cell tower currently has just about zero for storage back there right now. So we're not even approaching the 20% requirement that we have for outside storage.
But are you saying that's outside storage for everyone who's on your property, or is it 20%?
It's the whole property as defined by the zoning. So this plan showed all of the areas and defined all of the outside storage, and currently by the calculations that were shown, the outside storage, and it's on the plan, outside storage allowed, 20% equals 2 acres of total outside storage area. And what we've proposed and shown here is 1.4 acres. And again, this is an area out here that we're allowed for outside storage. We're not even in this area as of now. We just got a little bit here, and then some truck parking and trailer parking over in here. So we're
So if they decided to take all of the parts outside storage, you'd be okay with that? Or are you going to limit your tenants to a certain amount?
Under the proposed agreement that we have with them, they're limited right now, and and we still wouldn't approach that.
Okay, it's just, I'm just going through the documents that Russo put together for this special use, and I believe it was for us, not for planning and zoning. So I just want to make sure that, because we become very good sticklers, we've learned, to be sure that if you say it, we know exactly what that means. So I'm still not 100% sure what 20% means for them, but I think we might want to noodle on that for a minute.
It is a requirement for the entire property, so it's not 20% per tenant.
Them, it's just 20% for the
Blanket for the
property.
whole property.
And you can jump in, I'll go back and read my notes again.
Anybody else have anything?
She covered the question I had.
I've got a few.
Can I ask one more?
Go ahead.
Will there be a sign on this building? Do you have this, not that you're here for a sign permit or anything, but where are you going to put it?
Right now, it's just a magnetic sign that's going to go on the door. It has
A little door to
the main door that goes into like the break
We have
room
two.
and I can put one on both doors.
I would put some signage on the building, and I would make, we don't get to talk about signs. Go ahead.
All right. You mentioned the drains in the floor. but then you said it goes out to the sewer?
Yes, which is common practice.
Okay, right. Now, who has is Safety Clean gonna be taking what's separated out? Is that who's
That-
contracted that, or how is that? Because
would-
you have to have that cleaned every periodically.
That's correct.
Well, Safety Clean does the inside, and that would be Environmental Services out of South Windsor that would do the.
Okay, so you have a plan for that.
Yep.
Inside your facility, over by the break room, you have a couple of oil tanks, the 275-gallon tanks like somebody would have in their basement. And you have oil in them. I'm assuming that's oil storage for you. Are you required to have a catch basin around that or no? Because if there's leakage, it may not be an issue. It may, because your drains in the floor would put it through the oil separator. But I'm just asking, maybe you would have that answer. I don't know. I don't see a fire marshal's report, and that's something that they would have looked at maybe.
I think the fire marshal
They,
is, once this meeting is, they come out for the DMV inspection.
yeah.
Yeah, usually we look for reports from them and things like that. So I was just concerned because it's if you're required to have a base, you just due diligence, make sure if you're required to have a catch around it.
If
That
there
you have
is
a catch around
containment
it.
required in that room, then I'm sure that it would be
Okay.
installed before we receive even the DMV approval to
Okay.
move forward. So.
So I was out at the property today. You and I just missed each other a few times. So, but I did see a few things that I wanted to ask about. Trash. Who's doing? I don't see dumpsters next to your building.
They were next to the building, we had moved them farther out for snow removal. Currently, we have a cardboard dumpster and a trash dumpster, both
So those are the
sanitary
two. Are those the
services.
two that are at the end of one of those little carport areas?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Turner asked about outside storage, and I know you guys don't have any per se outside storage, and I know you're looking for us to approve a use for this building. But you also had people, a young gentleman taking stuff from this building and bringing it to another building for storage. So do you need approval on two different buildings for your service,
No,
or?
just the main shop.
Okay, so where is the store?
We have the.
We're
second-
looking at giving you an approval, and the approval's gonna be conditioned to your building. So if you're doing business in yet another building, that's something that needs to be addressed.
Right.
Because if it's tied with your building, then it's tied to your building.
Well, that's all Winding Brook Services. That's not what our intent is.
Okay, so the stuff he was moving out of your building belongs to them.
Yes.
Okay. So one of the things we have to talk about tonight is parking. And there's a formula that is in our regulations for parking. So, you currently have four bays. And you have a regulation, I believe, says that you can have 3 parking spaces per bay, 1 parking space per each employee, and plus 1 service vehicle. So we need to figure out parking. So how many employees?
Once this is all completed, we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4.
I don't need an exact number. You can say 6 or,
Figure 8.
8. And then, so there's
8.
12. So 21 parking spaces.
Parking requirements for current zoning are on the plan as far as what is required and what's being provided. So I'm not sure what numbers you've got, but this is the approved plan from planning
I
and
was trying
zoning.
not to have to.
Yeah, I know
plan
it, but
But I
based
believe,
on this, it's industrial diesel and drive line. The required parking is 6 spaces for their space.
Well, in our zoning book, in our zoning regulations, anybody have a book with them?
I do.
Rick, do you have your book with you, Rick?
What section?
Page 103.
Thank you.
What date?
Any chance you could read that to us?
Wait.
Section 10.10.2. Automotive service stations is the closest to
Right here.
this type of use. One per employee, three per service bay, that's BG district, 6 service bay, BR district, and 1 for service vehicle.
Right.
So that's
Did-
8.
have
So
they
the
changed
required
Six.
21 parking spaces, according to the regulation. So where did you get the regulation that's on the plan?
I have to apologize because I did not prepare this parking schedule. My partner did, who's not here tonight, so, but this was the parking schedule that went through planning and zoning and the town staff review, and which was approved.
Well,
That may be the parking that's specific to the site for the zone, but not for this particular use.
Yeah, excuse me if I may, I believe that parking requirement came in from the industrial 1 or industrial 2 use. This is industrial 2 property, and I believe that it came in at that. Originally, which is far less or less stringent than what we had thought it was, but the original parking requirements, we've had 140 some odd spaces there, and per that requirement, I think it brought it way down to 50-ish, if I'm not mistaken. There still is ample parking on site, and we've allowed through our agreement with Industrial Diesel that they could park approximately 10 trucks on the site or pieces of equipment along, and they do have employee parking as well. So, I mean, as far as I know, I think we're well within the requirement for parking.
Well, right. The reason I'm heading down this road is for a condition that I'd actually like to see. Now, you asked how I got to 21. So if it's 4 bays, 3 times 4 would be 12. 8 employees, that's now 20. 1 service vehicle would be 21. But,
I only have 4 employees.
okay, well. So now, are we gonna go by the regulation, or are we gonna go by what's, I don't have PZC stuff in front of me.
It's the
So-
same regulation.
Their
Did-
overall parking for the site, under planning and zoning is reviewed. They did meet, for the entire site, the parking. If you would like to have them delineate on the plans where exactly the parking spaces are for this use,
And
that's within.
that's where I'm going.
You're right, yeah.
Yeah,
We
for
don't
this
have
use,
jurisdiction
yeah.
right now over the whole site.
Right.
My site plan review has to be site-specific for this business.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking to see what exact parking is gonna be taken away from the overall property to this property.
Yep.
Because we need to, at some point, everybody that comes in front of us needs to be on the same page. So where I'm going, and one of the conditions that I would like to propose tonight is that their parking be marked out. So that if they have 8, just pick a number, if they have 8 parking spaces, 8 parking spaces could be marked D, D, and D with paint on the ground. So these are their Diesel Direct's parking.
Yep.
And eventually, everybody's on the same page. Every time somebody comes in front of the board and has their parking spaces marked, you're not just gonna say, well, there's ample parking.
Yep.
You know, we have regulations that say parking should be this, and if we start following the regulation, we'll get into that by marking our parking.
Okay. If you want to make that condition.
So that would be something I'd like the board to consider as a condition
how
tonight.
many?
Yeah.
How many parking spaces? Because she's now saying there's 3.
Well, she's saying there's 4 employees. So,
It says there's 3.
okay.
3, 4, 8.
4.
Well,
Including
keep
me.
in mind, keep in mind, I'm not trying to limit you or burden you. If you tell me you have 3 employees, that limits your parking, which means at any given time, if we come to an agreement tonight, you're gonna have 10 parking spaces, and then somebody calls up and complains and says, listen, Diesel Direct has got 20 parking spaces taken, and the zoning enforcement officer goes out there and you have 20 parking spaces, you're gonna be cited. So I'm trying to help you get the parking that you need, that you can live within, but not, I don't want to say, okay, you're going to have parking over the whole property. So, but that's why we have the regulation in place, so that your site-specific plan gives you the parking that you need and is required.
How many?
So if you can honestly say to me, look, I only have 4 employees, that will take those other parking spaces off. If you're saying that, look, in the next year, I could have 8 employees, then according to what I see in the regulation, we're gonna give you 21 spaces. But those 21 spaces, again, if the board considers a condition, those 21 spaces are gonna have to be marked with your company. Which would just be, putting a decal on the ground saying, Diesel Direct, or however you mark it, I don't care. And again, that's something you've gotta talk with. You're not the property owner,
Right.
You're a tenant, but that's something you guys are gonna have to live with once the decision's made tonight.
How many?
Well, from what she's, huh?
Look up to the applicant. Yeah.
From what she said, 8 employees, and we'll go with 21.
We have 18 on the plan.
Are there 21 parking spaces around your building?
Right now, there are 18 spaces that are allocated for industrial diesel, shown on the plan within their lease area.
Okay. Can you do me a favor?
Yep.
And somehow show us on there, I don't know if you have a red marker or, I need to be able to see where your parking is gonna be. If not, you can just use any marker, it doesn't matter.
Oh, we have a highlighter.
Just looking for something of color so we can see it from here.
Currently, there are 5 spaces to the south of the building, 8 spaces here, and another 5 here, which are allocated. That's 18 currently allocated for industrial.
Okay. On the north side of the building, there's a bunch of vehicles parked there. I'm assuming they're employee parking. Is that gonna be parking? Are you gonna line that, stripe that for parking, or is that not parking?
That's not based on the approved plan, it's not.
Okay.
Well, just so you know, when I was there, that's where everybody was parking.
So, if they're looking for 18, that's fine.
Excuse me, if I may, on the parking requirements, do the bays themselves count as a parking space, meaning inside the building?
No,
No,
those are separate.
That's just
So-
used as a mathematical,
Yeah.
Okay, so these are above
Equation
and
to
beyond
figure it
what's
out.
inside the
Yes.
building?
Right.
Okay, so there's 18
So
on the exterior now that we're showing.
If she's good
we
with
need
8.
3 spaces, and
So
there's
we could
4
we could
bays.
have 3 more to the east. Anywhere to the east, there's plenty of parking
Yeah.
in there, that's,
I'm good with 18,
So-
because she may not have that 8
Right,
number of
whatever.
employees.
So
Up to
here's
her
the
need.
question about the parking.
Right.
Are we talking about parking for cars? Or are we talking about
No,
parking
we're
for
talking
big
about parking
trucks?
in general, because most of their business is gonna be trucks, and those 8 the 8 plus 5 that he has on the west side there, those are deep parking spaces for trucks. So
It's by the storage
Cor-
unit.
Correct. So the ones on the south side of the building are shorter, and that's where I would assume you would park your cars, your employee parking.
So we're gonna go with 18?
You go, yep. Unless somebody else on the board feels we should do something different.
No.
Okay.
There was something that I read, and of course I can't put my toes on it at the moment, but it had something to do with the fourth bay having a truck in it that was a specific type of truck that was always going to be in that bay,
That's their service vehicle.
right?
We don't have the service vehicle.
Okay. No, I do remember seeing something
Yep.
about that,
Something-
and
Actually,
so,
I think it was
There
Winding Brook's
was-
truck.
Yeah, and that's Winding Brook's
Okay.
service vehicle, which is not,
So you're going to have strictly 4 empty bays.
yes.
And so, because that was my concern, if there's this truck and it's inside, and then you take it out and then you bring it in. So one of the conditions I believe I read is that your work will be inside and you will not store trucks outside. Trucks that are in the process of being worked on,
Right,
okay? Right?
yes.
I think those are all in the conditions of planning and zoning. So that was the question, is like, you know, when trucks are, how will the trucks get to your site? Will they be towed in? Will they drive in? Will they make an appointment?
They, all of the above.
So if they're towed in night and day, where are they gonna go if the gates are locked?
They're towed in during hours of operation. We're not, you know, the gates are locked, then, you know, if we have to show up at the shop at 2 o'clock in the morning and let them in, to put them in the shop, then that's what we have to do. But they're, you know, they're there during hours of operation.
But there's work going on in the shop right now. What work is that?
We're currently working for Winding Brook. So they're the owner-operators trucks, so they're under Winding Brook's trucks.
You mean because they don't need a permit?
Right.
Okay,
anything else?
I'm just checking. I don't have anything else.
Any other questions of the board? Anything else you want to add?
No, thank you.
Okay. Have a seat.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I got a list, so I need to make sure we know which ones are gonna be conditions or not, okay?
Okay. Anybody in the audience wishing to speak in favor or against the application? Going forward? State your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Jeff Scott. I live at 17 Connecticut Ave.
Oh,
Mary Ann mentioned about nitpicking, and I just wanted to clarify a couple things. Twice I've heard mention of it's zoned industrial 2, and yet the notice is talking about industrial 1, I believe. And I'm not really that knowledgeable about what, I'm assuming that this is not typically an approved use in an industrial zone. Is that why they're here, to get an approval from you folks?
No, the automotive is allowed in industrial zones.
Okay.
What they're here tonight for is a site plan review.
A site plan review.
It's to go over how many parking spaces are required, bulk storage, things like that.
he's right.
And why is that germane to you folks if you're in the business of granting variances?
Because the state of Connecticut determined 10 years ago that it wasn't a zoning board of appeals process and took it away from the zoning board of appeals and gave it to planning and zoning. Last year, the state of Connecticut said, wait a minute, we're going to take it back away from planning and zoning. We're going to put it back on ZBA.
So you got
So
the ball.
we do both. We don't do all site plan reviews. We do
Right.
site plan reviews for automotive purposes, and we do variances for specific things.
And don't get me wrong, I applaud what they're doing. I think it's probably a perfect use for that property. But I do find it interesting that we're talking about automotive repair, and yet clearly it's not going to be automotive, it's going to be heavy truck repair.
Well, but it's still automotive.
It's covered under the
Yeah,
license.
it's a license that is covered under automotive.
Again, a state DMV license.
Correct.
That's all I had.
That's fine.
So you need to clarify that.
Yes. I do need a clarification.
And it's on the card too.
Which one?
On the
Zoning
applicant
card.
zoning card says I-2.
It is I-2. That was an oversight on the,
So we have a defective notice.
Your
maybe.
notice is no good.
I mean, we still do, we do have
We'll
the.
move forward unless we have a problem.
Yeah,
We just need to proofread.
yep.
Anybody else
I
in the
do
audience wishing to
apologize.
speak in favor or against the application? As our regulations state, somebody in the audience came forward, you have a chance for a final say if you'd like to come forward and say anything else.
I don't believe, unless you have any further questions, we're happy with our presentation.
Anything else from the board?
No.
No? Okay. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Made by Mary Ann, second?
Second.
Second by Charlie. Public hearing is closed. Any discussion?
Can we roll through the conditions we might
Absolutely.
propose? Because there's a lot that I wrote down here. Okay. We know that the ones that planning and zoning have put into play are all in,
Correct.
okay? We want to make sure that the Phase 1 or Phase 2 environmental report is given to the planning office for their files. And if they, I'm assuming, Rick, don't you have something now? If they've had an ongoing Phase 1 or Phase 2 environmental study, there probably was something. The way we understand it, I'm going to back up. When we've had this happen in front of us before, that we told them they had to have this, they had to come in every 6 months or at least once a year, an update of what was going on. I don't know if they're doing that here.
No, in this case, because it's been extended a number of years, it went back with DEEP. So DEEP would get the report and then follow it through with us.
But are they
any
following it
updates.
through with you?
We haven't gotten one for,
Many years?
Yes.
That would be my guess. We need to make that a condition.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They suppose, I believe, and someone just needs to find it for me, that no barrels will be outside. If it's already written in the conditions,
I didn't see it, and I was going to propose it.
okay, I didn't see it either.
I don't know if legally any company can store chemicals in barrels outside. I could be wrong, but
I want it as a condition.
it's fine.
Okay. The 20% whole property, we're just going to leave it.
Yeah, that doesn't have to
Yeah,
do with
that's
us.
not- That's
so
not an issue.
Signs for the doors.
It's not an issue for
no,
us.
actually,
Floor drains.
Hold on, let's back up there.
Yep.
We don't get to issue sign permits because that's not us. But can we have a condition that says they must have a sign? Again, if we follow rules and regulations, everybody is the same. Which would mean if somebody calls and says, hey, there's a building on this property that has a problem, and you send Rick out to this property, he's got to guess what building. If every one of our buildings has a sign saying this is the company that's here, somebody calls up and says, hey, this company's building has a violation. Rick goes out, he finds that company's building, and you don't have a problem.
Yeah.
I don't think you
I
can
mean,
make
we
someone
can't
have
really
a sign.
force people to put up signs. That's not written in our regulations.
That's
as
why
a
I'm asking.
requirement.
That's,
So,
you know.
Okay, let's move on.
But again, conditions are things that aren't in our regulations
Right.
that we move forward to impose. So that's why I'm asking if it's,
yeah, we can't require people to put up signs, but I mean, you can certainly recommend it.
I mean, right, but just like I can't, our regulations don't require people to mark their parking spaces, but I'm gonna put a condition in for that. So
Right.
I'm looking at signs, is the sign the same thing? I'm looking for your opinion on that.
Well, they are required to have those spaces, whereas they're not required to have a sign. So
Okay.
you're just asking them to mark out
That's
where those
perfect.
required spaces
So all I
are.
was looking for was whether or not we were in
there any issue with floor drains, or did that just come, we got that?
No, the floor drains are appropriate and they go to a
Back
separator.
room, 2 oil tanks, did we want to put a condition that they had to put the
Nope.
Uh,
fire
That's a-
marshal report? Are we going to ask for the fire marshal
Yes,
report?
there should be a fire marshal's report. I don't know why we don't have one.
Trash dumpsters, are we going to have them move them, put them back where they
Nope,
belong?
that's a PZC issue.
Outside storage, we're saying there's none, are we going to reiterate that?
Yes.
As far as,
this use.
sorry,
Because-
I'm sorry, what was the first thing you asked about?
The trash.
With the trash.
Yeah, that has nothing to do. She was asking about if we wanted them to move the trash.
Okay.
That's the PZC thing. That's got nothing to
Okay.
do with
Okay.
our site plan.
Site-specific parking, we've agreed, or we've chatted about it being 18 spaces that will be marked.
Correct.
Okay. We talked about the big truck. Hours of operation are going to be Monday through Friday, 7 to 5, and 5 to 7, 5, no, Saturday, 7 to noon. We're going to agree those are going in.
Yep.
Are there any other conditions?
No, I don't have any.
That's it. No, you covered what I
Anybody
was
else?
going to suggest.
Okay. I just want to make one last.
Standard condition of zoning compliance certificate.
They're
Yep.
here.
We
Hang
did
on one
provide a resolution that has the general conditions of what we would normally put on a site plan for
Plus, we need to
planning and
talk
zoning.
And we also need to make note of the plans, the site-specific plans that have not, they were not brought in front of us. They're not these plans.
Correct.
But they've been corrected.
Yep, and it's actually shown on this
Number
plan over here.
Number 7 on here, right?
This area, it's
Right.
not really something that you guys really look at, but these trees were moved over on this plan as part of what the Planning and Zoning Commission required to sign the special permit.
So we need
Yeah,
to,
so our condition that we would add is that they meet all conditions of PZC's special
Yep.
permit.
Yep, and we recommended in there that for the final plans, because we require final plans to be submitted for signature by your secretary, we just recommended that we make sure that the condition of approval is that these revised plans that were being signed by the secretary of the Planning and Zoning Commission, that those same plans are shown for you guys as well. So the
Correct.
plans match.
and how will they be marked so we know?
They should have his signature on them.
There has to be some kind of superseded number under the,
That's-
is there a superseded number
Revision.
up in the
revision-
legend or something?
Revision date.
It'll
Revision?
be the last revision date. We put on your referenced plans that the plans are revised to January 26th, if you look on the first page. So, and they'll probably have a more updated revision once they mark the parking spaces on the final plans.
Okay.
But as long, so that plan right there is accurate.
Yes.
Okay, so as long as you make sure that the condition is that, or you're signing off something that is no older than January 27th.
I understand.
January 26th, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so then we have all the general conditions, and there were 6 of those, then the site-specific condition, 7, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 more.
Okay.
And do you need me to read them into the record for you?
Yes.
Do you need
You-
the 6?
I mean, you read them already, the same 6 that you just said prior. If you want to, you can.
Let's just do them in order, and that way
Alright.
they're,
Okay.
I don't want to miss
So we
anything.
have the general conditions, we're not reading those into the
Correct.
record. So our site-specific ones will be, first one is that the final plans shall be revised to include the changes required as part of the special use permit from planning and zoning. They will meet all the conditions of PZC and will be the revised plans as of the date of January 26, 2018,
Or thereafter.
or thereafter. Okay. There will be a Phase 1 or Phase 2 environmental report once a year provided by the property owner to be put on file. Somehow or another, you folks have to make some note of that. By property owner. There will be no barrels, no 50-gallon barrels outside. If there are any, they will be quickly put where they belong. We did not get a fire marshal's report. We would expect that to be put into this file. We will have site-specific parking, 18 parking spaces, and they will be marked as provided on that sheet with the yellow highlights. And you're asking them to spray paint some
Somehow
kind.
mark the parking.
And there will be no outside storage, just to reiterate this. There will be no outside storage for this operation. So there really was 7. There's 7 conditions from us. Okay? Then you have 9 through 14 that are already here from planning and zoning. Another, let's see, let me just read there's 18 conditions, including the certificate of compliance. And the way and they have 10 days, Rick. Because once we're done with this and it's all signed off, plans are in, their certificate of compliance will be in your hand in 10 days. I believe that covers all the conditions. Did I forget any?
No, I don't think so.
Got them all.
Anything else besides the conditions? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? Made by Mary Ann, seconded by Catherine. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Passes unanimously.
Just give me a minute, I have to write this.
Not a problem. So you folks are all set. Anything you need, the town planning department can help you with. And hopefully you have a successful business there. Yeah, I'm not gonna bother opening mine if you want.
Okay, yeah, sure. Drag it over. Does that work?
Yeah, it's just, there's not enough room really for.
No.
Get rid of that one.
Sorry, you have to wait a second, guys.
No, it's not done till the paperwork's finished, right?
Excuse me.
It's catchy.
It's been a long day.
Into a meeting, all of a sudden everybody wants to talk to me.
Was that map dated today, Jen, that they just took down?
Thought she said 27.
26th.
January
26.
Revised 26.
To the 26th, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, and with the 7th one, and meet all the conditions. Is this letter that was a certified mail of November 3rd, are these all the conditions?
From planning and zoning, yes. That's the approval letter that we sent out to them.
Okay. There's I-1.
Again?
No,
Oh, that was the other one.
yeah.
Okay.
See, make sure I got all those. No barrels, site, Mario Marshall, hours. I think I got it all. Remember, we only get one shot at this.
Sorry.
Oh, plus the certificate of compliance, but that's part of the P.
That should be part of the one we missed, and we should just make it standard.
Is?
Because if there's any changes, large or small, but we should at some point just make that a standard.
What do you have? Two of the same?
It's always gonna be there.
To us. Okay. Yep.
All right, will the applicant for 2 Connecticut Ave come forward, please?
Good evening.
Evening, sorry about the wait, just had to finish up some paperwork.
Oh, it's good. Good to have a.
State your name and address for the record.
My name's James Channing, 246 Cottage Street, Springfield, Massachusetts. I'm an agent for Pride Limited Partnership, or the applicant here. I think you already read the legal notice,
Yep.
so I can proceed. What we're requesting tonight is a variance from table 5.10, that being the BL district where the minimum lot area provided is 30,000 square feet. The lot that we present before you today actually has 23,717 square feet in the state of Connecticut, and so the requested variance would be 6,283 square feet. As way of a background, it's a lot that's located at the, excuse me, right across the Massachusetts line. It's Enfield Street and Connecticut Avenue. It may be a misnomer. We're calling it 2 Connecticut Avenue, but that's actually where the frontage is. So it would be, that's the minimum frontage is along Connecticut Avenue. To the north of this parcel would be 2 smaller lots, which actually previously were part of Connecticut before the turn of the 18th to the, or the turn of the 1800s to the 1900s when they realigned the state line. And just north of that's the operating Pride gas station. To the south of that, across from Connecticut Avenue, is the McDonald's. To the east is a auto sales center, and then to the west would be a residential as well, or a residence. Currently on the parcel itself, there's 3 structures, 1 residential, 1 duplex, and 1 commercial building. As you can note, the commercial building itself, actually, the garage is in Massachusetts, so it's literally on the state line in a different town, a different state. And so we have 3 buildings, which, if I may approach.
Would you take the mic?
Take the microphone so that, yep.
So in terms of the application for the variance, we have 3 buildings, none of which actually currently comply with setback or regulation requirements. You'll note this box is all the rear yard, front yard, and buffer zone. Because there is a residence here, there's a required 35-foot buffer zone for a BL district or the BL district. Note that the duplex itself does not comply with the front yard variance. The residence itself does not comply with either the side yard or the buffer. And again, the building that's actually over the state line or on the state line does not comply with the rear yard buffer nor the front yard buffer either with respect to Route 5. So what we have currently situation are 3 buildings that are all non-compliance or non-conformity structures. With respect to the request for the hardship or the hardship itself, for the building would submit that there's no other parcel like this in the town, specifically or notably in the BL district. It's actually something that's very unique, being almost like a peninsula surrounded by the state line to the north, Route 5 to the east, and Connecticut Ave to the west, or to the south, excuse me, and then 1 residence to the west. So there's really, I think one of the questions asked before you, is this the minimum required variance? And it is. It would be the least possible is this 6,000 square feet. I believe last time we were here before you in November, there was an inquiry with respect to the town solicitor's office or the city solicitor as to whether or not we could take into consideration land that's located in a different state or a different town. And by the letter of the law, we cannot for variance applications. So that's why, again, it's the minimum required would be that 6,283 square feet. Looking in, again, specifically the BL district, a lot of it goes primarily to along this Route 5 Gateway district. And then there are some other areas on a lot of main driveways, but no other parcel specifically on the Route 5 corridor until 91 or anywhere else in the town for that matter has the unique characteristics of this parcel, meaning surrounded by both the state line, Route 5, and Connecticut Avenue or another public street. Again, with respect to the zoning request for a variance, the often question is whether or not this is self-created or the purpose behind it. And I'm not going to get into or try to indicate that there may be some future development because that's not before you in terms of the concern or the consideration. But I can tell you that the intent of this variance would be, and I'll note that this is the only variance being requested, the variance from the lot, no other side yard setback or any other requests. The intent of this is to make a parcel that's more conforming or less non-conforming, which both the state law, the town regulations, and the plan of conservation all encourage. If you have an opportunity to make something less non-conforming or more conforming to the law, it's certainly encouraged. And as noted with these 3 structures, which are all currently non-conforming, it would be feasible if the variance were to be granted to create a structure that conforms to every other regulation and every other law, but for the lot size. Again, the minimum variance is the one being requested, the 6,283 square feet, although we did note, and I think it is important to note that there is additional parcel that may be considered, but that would be more planning and zoning consideration. It wouldn't be something that you can concern based on the letter of the law in my conversations or my understanding of the opinion from your town attorney. And looking at the business district, again, the main purpose of the BL district, or a main purpose of the BL district, is really a district for a variety of commercial areas that can be economically valued on the end of a scale, the intensity, and the type of use. As I noted before, 2 of these structures are actually a residence and a duplex, things that are discouraged under both the law and the regulations. Having a residence in the BL district is something that's not encouraged. In fact, it's discouraged. So if the variance were to be allowed, and again, not only would we be dealing with non-conforming or eliminating non-conforming structures, but would actually be eliminating or potentially eliminating non-conforming uses as well, which is something I think is noteworthy. Again, with respect to why you should consider this or why you may want to consider this variance, I think it's the unusual hardship of this parcel. Again, it's unique and different in that its location, as to the cause of it, it's not something that was caused by the applicant. Again, this parcel was pre-existing long before the regulations came in fact, long before the state line was actually realigned. And so it's something that could be granted if, in fact, the main concern is whether or not this would be detrimental to the neighborhood or impact the public safety or convenience. And I'd submit that, in fact, we're dealing with parcel now that has 4 curb cuts, that if there were to be an application in the future, there'd be certainly a consideration and a requirement to reduce those. So it'd be something that actually would benefit or potentially could benefit the public with respect to the safety and convenience as well as any circulation plan. Again, looking on the building that's on the state line and the town line, I mean, just from a safety consideration standpoint, it certainly would be encouraged to eliminate that if possible. I mean, goodness sake, if there was an emergency there, it wouldn't even be a dispute as to who had jurisdiction over that for the emergency personnel. So certainly, obviously, if you're in a position to eliminate that concern, it's something that I think should be considered or looked into. As well as the fact that if you are able to comply or are able to make a more modern building that obviously would be both safety and fire compliance and meet with all those necessary codes, that's a consideration to be made as well. I think in terms of what could benefit the town and what could benefit eliminating these non-conforming structures. And the benefit, again, complying with the plan of development, I'd submit that if there were to be something that was proposed to the Planning and Zoning Commission, whether it be through site plan or special permit, those would be factors that would need to be met and need to be complied with. All we are asking for at this point is one variance, albeit it's a significant deviation if you look at it at its face. I mean, it's nearly a third of a variance request, or 6,000 of a 30,000 square. But I think all factors considered, most notably the proposal that would, in fact, if it were to be allowed, would eliminate a lot of nonconformities, is something that both Connecticut law, the Town of Enfield regulations, and the Plan of Conservation and Development absolutely encourage. And I think it's something that could be accomplished through this variance. And again, I just talk about access and egress because I'm sure Mr. Scott, obviously that's one of his primary concerns in terms of how this could impact circulation and how it could impact specifically the residences that are there on Connecticut Avenue. And I would submit that obviously there would be a buffer, the 35-foot buffer for those that are on that side of the north side of Connecticut Avenue. And then again, with respect to the curb cuts, I don't want to get into specific prototypes or protocols, but again, if there were to be something that needed to comply with a site plan or special permit application, as well as access egress agreement or traffic plan, that'd be something that could be appropriately addressed there. But obviously nothing could be done without the blessings and without the input. So the only question before you now is whether or not a variance would be appropriate. If there's a unique hardship that would be met, and I'd submit to you that based on other representations there is, I have some case law that would support our request if necessary or appropriate. But in terms of an initial presentation, I think that's hopefully addressing the primary concerns that you may have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the board?
Nope, not for me.
I've got, well, I'll maybe come back to me. Yeah, it is on.
Anything down there?
I'm good.
I just have one. Are people gonna be able to access the bakery from the Pride station? Or are they gonna have to come out onto Enfield Street and go in through the front?
I can tell you that both the Enfield regulations and the Town of Long Meadow regulations encourage an inter-circulation plan that meets access and egress points for the maximum of safety. Our prototype, again, I can't get into specifics, but the prototype would encourage a mutual limit the amount of traffic, obviously, on Route 5 or the amount of access points. So the encouragement would be there, and in dealing with future potential plans, that certainly is something we think would maximize circulation and maximize safety, would be allowing a uniform circulation plan among them both.
I remembered the question.
Okay.
How did number 4 Connecticut Avenue become business local? Was that through planning and zoning?
Through planning and zoning when they combined the property.
Yep, they
Okay.
combined the property and they went through a zone change application process.
Okay.
So
So the whole
That
thing
happened.
took over the business.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then the follow-up on that was there a deed of merger filed merging the
Yep.
lots?
there was, it
Oh,
was
you
filed
just
in the
didn't
clerk's
copy it to
office.
us. Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
All right, so, I'm going to ask a question, but it's really kind of so that everybody understands. You're looking for a variance on a business local property because it's generally just a little too small to put any building on it right now. No matter what your project is, you have a business local property that has to sit there with nothing on it because it's too small.
That's correct.
Okay.
And just so we make sure that in the documents, Jen, he states it's Enfield Avenue. I know it just got confused with Connecticut Avenue and Enfield Street. We need to be careful,
Yep.
okay?
Any other questions?
I was curious, and just because I'm curious, the part about how this is going to advance the public health, safety, and morals of the general welfare of the community, I just figured you threw that in just for the heck of it.
I wish I could give a comment on moral turpitude or not, but that's something far above me. I appreciate pointing out anytime there's a typographical error, and I'll try to eliminate that for future.
We have
That's
learned
why
our
I get-
lesson with
That's it.
those.
Yeah,
That's why I
can't
get
even-
everybody, somebody to proofread anything I write.
I think it's
just
morally
better that
appropriate
way.
in that.
Any other questions? Okay, you're free to have a seat.
Thank you.
Anybody in the audience wishing to speak for or against the application? Come forward, sir. Again, if you state your name and address for the record again.
See if I still remember. Jeff Scott, 17 Connecticut Ave. I've been following this process as these folks have been trying to work this through the system, which is amazing. I did note that there was a mention of a bakery. I thought this was just about the lot.
It is. We have no building coming in front of us. We have no project in front of us.
I've seen the drawing, okay?
No, but that's not.
But I heard mention
Right.
from a member about the bakery.
But because that's not in front of us tonight, that has no bearing on
I understand.
this process.
And in addition to what this young lady said about number 4, is number 4 the duplex? The second property?
It was a residential property. I think if I'm not mistaken, there's a house on it.
Well, there's the business on the corner, then there's a duplex, and then there's a small ranch house. Is that number 4, the
Yes.
small
I
ranch?
think so.
So the other 2 were combined already?
There, I believe, were 4 properties that were all combined into one under 2 Connecticut Avenue.
So that's called 2 Connecticut Avenue
Yep.
now? Okay. Because that wasn't clear, because I thought there were clearly more than that parcel-wise. And as this gentleman pointed out, apparently those are non-conforming buildings that are on those properties. However, you're not going to make them take them down, are you? Because they're non-conforming. They exist. Just something that occurred to me is simply, what are we as a town getting revenue-wise from the taxation of those 3 buildings as opposed to what's going to happen if you make this a special business local and you put 1 building on it? I don't know. It's going to be a commercial building. It's going to be up to date, probably worth $1 million. I don't know. But just a consideration, and whether that has anything to do with whether you grant a variance or not, I don't know. But as he pointed out, the variance is the other side, 6,283 square feet, which is over 20% of what the regulation allows. I understand that it's a unique situation because of where it is, but it's not clear to me that it's incumbent on you, because it's a unique situation, that they've gone ahead and pursued it with the idea of putting a business on it, because it is business local, and now they're trying to stuff it into that little corner, even though it doesn't fit what the rules say you should have. Have any of you been by that property? Okay. I mean, I obviously go by every day. And interestingly, before your last hearing, and that's why I asked about the separate lots, they had placarded all 3 lots. They're very good about compliance in terms of doing what they should do. And I applaud them for that. I am concerned about the curb cuts on Connecticut Avenue, as he indicated I would be. And there are existing ones because you have a house, a duplex, and then the business. The business cuts are actually on Enfield Street, I believe. I don't think there's a cut onto Enfield Street, onto Connecticut Avenue from that corner property. I think that's, let me make sure, and again, the other thing that occurs to me as being a neighbor, but I'm not a next-door neighbor, and neither is the person at 8 Connecticut Avenue right now. They're a neighbor, but they're not faced with having a business next door. They have a neighbor that has a ranch house. They have a neighbor 2 houses over that's a duplex. And then there's a business on the corner. Now all of a sudden they're going to have a 35-foot buffer, and they're going to have some sort of business put on that property. They wouldn't be pursuing this, obviously, if they weren't looking to put a business there. We all know that. So just to keep in mind, I can't say I'm against him doing it, but when I drive by that parcel, it's so much smaller than what's across the street. I can understand why the regulations say it should be 30,000 square feet. There was a reason that was put in the regulations, especially in a business local situation. Trying to stuff a business into a small parcel because it's unique and it sits on the state line adjacent to, I get it, but is that fair to the neighborhood? To say, oh, well, yeah, just because it's a unique plot of property, we'll go ahead and let it be done. So those are the questions that I like you to be thinking about, that's all. And thanks for what you do.
Thank you. And according to our regulations, you get to come forward and speak to us again if you'd like.
Yeah, I appreciate Mr. Scott's comments. I would note that, again, in terms of the building lots or potential building lots, that the BG district itself actually only has 22,500 square feet. So I think that what we're requesting, or the lot itself, would not be potentially a buildable lot. It certainly would be and could be. Now, with respect to the determination by the Planning and Zoning Commission, absolutely at some point they thought that 30,000 would be the appropriate lot area. We are requesting a variance from that, but only that. We're not asking for any setbacks or side considerations, or most notably actually maximum building coverage, which would be 35%. So we are talking about obviously a potential, and we're not getting into future plans, but I would just note that the only request before you would be for a variance for the lot area, that everything else, if there were to be a request in the future, that everything else would have to comply with all those notable minimum requirements. So it is feasible and I think realistic to know that they go hand in hand, that there's not 8 requests for variances before you, but there would be one for the minimum lot size. I believe that addresses most of Mr. Scott's concerns. Obviously not getting into potential curb cuts, but there would be 4 to 1, and he's familiar with the plan with respect to obviously our cognizance of the neighbors. And the 35-foot buffer, it's not only a buffer, but there's actually the requirement to have a berm and a number of landscapes and trees and sound as a consideration as well. But again, that's all something for planning and zoning. At this point, I believe that there would be an unusual hardship based on the uniqueness characteristics of this specific parcel compared to all those in the town. And actually, if a variance were to be allowed, it would encourage the elimination or the reduction of nonconformities, which is something that both Connecticut law, the town of Enfield regulations, and actually the plan of conservation development all encourage. So again, I'd be respectfully asking that you approve this variance based on those reasons.
Anything else from the board?
Just have some questions to Jen regarding the application. Just to make sure that we don't have any issues. Some of the items were not filled in on here about the application type and variance type, proposed building. I think where it says, does the applicant own the property, I think it says yes, and those are answers there. But on the previous time he came in front of us, there was an applicant's signature and then there was an owner's signature. On this one, there's no owner's signature, and the applicant's signature is the same, is different. I don't know, I can't tell. So I just want to make sure that our paperwork's accurate.
So it looks like the applicant's signature is Robert Bolduc, who is from Pride, and Pride is the owner of the property.
Remember, when they came in front of us before, they didn't own it yet.
So, yep, and I gave you the deed. They have filed the merger of all 4 of the lots, so they have that. As far as the application, if you would like them to check off non-residential and for the area, you can have them do that in the file.
I think he answered that in his free write.
I don't think it needs to be done now because we're in a public hearing.
Yep.
What I would like to see is anytime you take in an application, review it and make sure that it's complete in its entirety.
Okay.
So that way that question doesn't have to come up. And
All right.
is that satisfactory for you?
Yep.
Okay. All right, you can have a seat. Do I have a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Made by Mary Ann, seconded by Charlie. Public hearing is closed. Discussion.
The property is the problem. They've merged them all together. I think the variance is minor considering what they're doing, and when you encapsulate it with the whole property, even though we can't talk about Massachusetts, it's a larger parcel.
Right.
Makes sense.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I just had a thought of, if they've created this assemblage, how does that not become a self-imposed situation? What's your thought on that?
I spent a lot of time thinking about that.
Because I've been wrestling with that
And
myself.
this is what I came up with. So, they took a parcel of land that was business general.
Mhm.
And it had a non-conforming building on it.
Right.
So they said, and this is me talking out loud. They said, let's try and make this conforming.
Mhm.
So you purchase 2 other pieces of property around you. One of them's residential. So you go through the whole zone change to make it business general. So now you've purchased all these properties, and you still, even with buying all this land, can't come up with enough property.
Mhm.
Part of that reason, as Mary Ann pointed out, is they own more property. It's just not in our jurisdiction.
Right.
So we can't say, go ahead and use it for your project. We have no say in that.
Right.
Okay? Because if you remember, if we could use
Right.
it,
We
we
wouldn't
wouldn't
be
be
here.
sitting here.
Right.
But we can't. So we
Yeah.
have to go by what's in Connecticut.
Yeah.
They bought everything they could,
Right.
and they still can't come up with enough property.
Yeah.
Now, as far as what's going on the property, that's not in front of us. We really don't care. We don't care about curb cuts or any of that. All we care about is the size of the property right now. And right now, you have one parcel of land that's business general that, according to our regulations, can have no building on it.
Yep.
It's essentially ruled a useless piece of property now.
Just clarifying, it's business local.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, but so you have a piece of property that's business local that will sit there with no tax revenue. You can't put anything on it. It's too small. Okay? So what they're asking for is, look, we'll meet all of our side setback variants. We'll meet everything there. Just we have a smaller piece of land. So if they come back to you later and say, oh, we want to put a building on here, but we want to go bigger and we want you to give us a variance for a backyard setback, you can always say no at that point because, hey, you can't come further out of compliance. But right now they're trying to take a useless piece of property and make something of it. If we say no to this, they can sell it to somebody else. It's still, nobody can put anything on it. It's a useless piece of property the way it sits. Because of our regulation that says it has to be 30,000 square feet. He's already bought up all the land and still can't make it.
Okay, let's move on.
Okay. Everybody get it?
We got you, yeah.
All right. So, anybody else have anything else? All right. All in favor of the application, signify by raising your right hand.
Did you make a motion
Oh,
on that?
no, we didn't, did we?
Sorry.
No, we just,
Oh,
I
do
make
have
a motion.
to approve?
I have a motion to approve ZBA, let me get the right one, ZBA 2017-12-18 to Connecticut Avenue to add variance for the 6,000, I forgot the number. How many square feet?
We wrote it as to reduce the minimum required lot area in a business local zone to 23,717 square feet, where 30,000 is required.
Okay.
Second.
Made by Mary Ann, seconded by Andrew. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. There's nobody left to oppose, so we're all set.
We have a little problem with the paperwork because, of course, when I put the two of them on top of each other and I grabbed one or the other, I wrote on the
Wrong
ZB.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
We'll fix the paperwork.
you need to fix the paperwork because I didn't look. Okay, so.
So you were all set with your project.
Good luck. They never fold up the way they unfold.
It's funny, I sit there at my table at home and this big round table.
Yeah.
And I unfold it all and I'm just, it's like, so we had one last month where it was that real thick one.
Yeah.
So I was only unfolding half the page at a time. And then it's okay, that's the page I want, and then I'd flip the half
Yeah.
page. So that way there I could flip half page over and close it.
Yeah, it's tough to look at them. Like, you know, when I keep them at my office, I keep them rolled. I have an old engineering file I bought, and I leave them rolled, and then it's
That's
really
nice.
and that's really easy. But when you get these heavy creases in them, you can put all the books you want on them, and then you can't read because you got so many weights holding them down.
Well, I like the ones, and you only get, only some people give them to you that way, where they have the binding on the edge of it.
Right, right.
That's kinda nice.
That's a nice thing to do.
But you're paying money for,
Yeah, but not much.
I don't know.
I mean, anytime I brought plans anywhere, we always do that.
To bind it.
Yeah. And nothing
Just
gets
keeps-
separated, and you can tell
keeps
that
it
it
so
came
much
from
nicer.
the same source. And
you can label everything properly with page numbers and, you know.
it's real easy to follow.
So you pay taxes on the little parcel?
Who made them a second?
Andrew.
Andrew made the second.
Andrew, spell your last name.
URBANOWICZ.
And I need to see, well, I don't need to see you guys yet.
Okay.
I may need to see you at the end of the meeting. We'll see how this next part goes.
Okay.
You need to stop talking.
Just wanted to make sure.
Oh, yeah. We go.
Yeah.
Said it.
I appreciate your explanation, though. Thank you.
Also, I didn't realize, but you guys now have a recording secretary. Her name is Liz, so we welcome
Noticed
Liz.
that when we came in.
I didn't realize that this was her first meeting for ZBA, so.
Sorry,
We're,
we
hap-
ignored you.
we're happy to have the assistance.
All right, moving on. Other business. We have to, tonight, as our first meeting of the year, elect positions for chairman, vice chairman, and secretary.
Which one do you want to do first?
Let's go with the chairman.
I make a motion, Mola Rosa be our chairman.
I second.
All those in favor?
Any other nominations?
Oh, yeah.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Let's go with vice chairman.
I make a motion that Andrew Banowitz be our vice chairman.
Second.
Second.
Any other nominations? All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Congratulations. And secretary.
I nominate Mary Ann Turner for secretary.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other nominations? All in favor of Mary Ann as secretary? Raise your right hand. All right. So now I need to see the two of you after the meeting.
Okay. No problem.
Minutes.
Minutes for December 18th.
Kathy, you want to make the change?
Yeah, there's one change to the minutes for, it was reported that I resigned. It should have been Lynn Scull.
Yes.
Yeah. I had noticed that.
I'm still here.
Kathy's new and she wants to stick around.
Oh, sorry about that.
However, we do appreciate the service that Lynn gave us for a few years that she was here, and she'll be missed.
All right, we'll correct that.
How'd she spell her name?
Skull?
Scull. Do you need me to initial it, or I'll just come in and sign it when you correct it? What do you want to do?
Yeah, we can correct it and you can come in, or, yeah, if you want to.
All right. Any other changes? Motion to accept the minutes is amended
So moved.
by Mary Ann, second.
Second.
By Charlie, all in favor, signify by raising your hand. We passed. Correspondence, staff reports. You guys get to participate now.
Well, those are the only two ZBA applications we have in the office. So other than that, if you have any questions for me, or
I'd like to
us.
talk about the zoning application.
Okay.
When, years ago, we sat with other land use boards, and we were very clear that we wanted on our zoning application, that especially with ZBA, that people who come in and they're going to have come in front of us, that when we go to their property, it's marked, either with spray paint, somehow. That is no longer on the application unless I just don't see it. It used to be up at the top, and I haven't seen
Okay.
it. Who changed our application?
We haven't touched the application since the last time we had it on the agenda. We made sure of that. If you would like us to add that back on, we can do that for you.
It's really important because just like the diesel folks that were here, if they would have marked it and I would have known where I was going.
Okay.
Same thing with the variance for the Connecticut Avenue. They
Yep.
would have marked what side of the property they're telling me they want the variance on,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah, we can certainly add that back on for you.
Could you send a copy to the chairman so he can review it?
Yep.
And if you guys see something that you want to make changes on, we're not opposed to you guys making changes.
Okay. You just want to be a
Just-
part of the process.
There's reasons we've done changes and
Yeah.
made things a certain way, so I just want to be aware of them.
Okay.
Because I was going to mention that as well, because it's not,
Yep.
we put things there and that's what we want. And if you want to change them, we just ask that you ask us before we change them.
Yep. We have updated forms for other commissions more recently. We haven't updated yours to match those. We're sort of creating things more uniformly, not necessarily changing the information we ask. So if you guys would like to have the format updated so that it's all uniform with the other applications, we wouldn't touch anything that you ask, but we can certainly do that
I
too
would
for
like you to
guys.
always put a date and a revision number on every document on the bottom.
Okay.
So we always know that the applicant is working off the most latest, the current form that we want.
Yep, and we include that on all of the other forms, and we can certainly add that to your form as well.
So
I will, I actually have a bunch of our previous applications, because I don't throw everything away.
Yeah, yeah, and we have the old
So I'm going to
templates
look
saved.
through and I will grab one of the ones that we're talking about that we put together
Okay.
and bring it into you so that we make sure we're all on the same page as far as what we wanted there for information for the customer.
Okay,
All right?
sounds good.
there was something else I wanted. It made me forget. Damn it. Keep going if I think of it.
All right. Anything else you guys have for us for correspondence or?
We did give you the newsletter from the Connecticut Federation of Planning and Zoning Agencies with that save the date for the conference, at the annual conference at the AquaTurf.
I'd like to talk about that for a minute. The town of Enfield's in a huge problem because of what happened with Governor Malloy and not giving us the proper funding that he was supposed to do, which has put our council in dire straits of trying to close a budget for 2017-18. I personally would say, I plan on attending this, but I don't think the town of Enfield should pay for my participation. So I would ask the rest of my people here, if you're planning on going to this event in March, that you pay the $48 for your seat and your ticket. And
Sure. Yeah,
and
I'll
I
write a
I don't
check,
have a
no
problem with that.
and I ask that and I think you should take it out of our budget. Take that out completely,
For this year.
and probably forever. And that the other boards and commissions should do the same. So I can't speak for them, but
All right. We
Just
can
tell me
note
who
that.
Make a check out to the town.
right, let us know who we make the check out to and when you need it by.
I would,
Okay.
That's just my opinion, and you
I
guys could say no.
I like the opinion, and I'm willing to pay for my own seat this year. I wouldn't say that as a blanket statement. When budgets are running where they're supposed to be and they're not in a crunch,
Right.
then that certainly should be something that is not asked of the commission to pay for.
Right.
But right now, understanding what's going on, I don't have a problem paying for my seat this year. I just wouldn't put a blanket statement in as just get rid of it forever.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree. We're
Yeah.
volunteers.
So that's just my thought.
I think we voluntarily pay our way this year and see how next year looks.
And if we got to do it next year, we do it if we have
When
to.
will we see, because I don't believe we'll see our budget until,
They have been working on it. I know we've been looking at,
please, I guess what
At
I'm
least for
asking is when it
2018.
comes time for the ZBA budget,
Yeah.
we
Yep.
see it before that it goes, so we can make modifications
Yeah.
to our own budget.
Right. If we
Yep.
can
The-
cut something, we,
yeah, they do things now so that the land use commissions come out of one account. So it's all one budget for land use commissions. So we can certainly keep you in the loop as the planning goes on with for the budgets. I think right now we're focused on 2018.
Yeah, if there's something we can cut, I'd like to see us do that because we do have a couple of new people on the commission. I'd rather see education happen than something else happen that, we have to kind of make decisions too.
Right. So, yeah, we can certainly keep you guys updated.
Anything else? Any other business? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned.